Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-free review for the Netflix series Blue Eye Samurai. Let this ember's light brighten a path to the men I seek, guide my steps until I find them, and kill them. Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. My name is Nate, and this is our spoiler-free review for the Netflix series Blue Eye Samurai. Special thanks, as always, to the folks at Netflix Canada for letting us watch this series early for review. If you're joining us for the first time, we are Geekcentric, a podcast focusing on the world of movies, TV shows, games, and all things geek-centric. Joining me for today's review, we have my two loyal apprentices who I know will always have my back even if I'm attacked by a big Irish man. Justin and Darcy, how's it going?
Doing well.
Good.
I feel like you would be the big Irish guy.
Yeah, I was going to say, that'd be just like playing action there. Yeah.
I was hoping, maybe I could have been more of a Ringo-style character.
I couldn't.
I don't know.
Yeah. Ringo is definitely a better fit for you than a giant Irish man.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
But, this series centers around 17th century Edo period Japan. I wanted to ask you guys before we dive in, we always talk about sort of how our love of Star Wars and how much Star Wars is inspired by, yes, a lot of Westerns, but also a lot of Japanese film. Are there any specific Japanese movies or samurai movies that kind of stick out to you, or that you kind of, sort of love to watch if you're ever feeling in the mood for a samurai story?
Well, when I was in university, I studied a lot of different genre-style films, and one of the films that definitely stood out to me back then was Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurais, and we studied it for its sensibility of being obviously a samurai film, but being inspired by the films of Western cinema. Kurosawa displayed a bold and dynamic style in his film style, and he has been long time has always been praised for his stories, especially with the Seven Samurai. So if I'm thinking authentic, true, and a lot of what people think of in terms of samurai movies, I think of Akira Kurosawa.
Yeah. Darcy, what about yourself?
I mean, anything, again, like the Kurosawa films are what I'm most familiar with. But more recently, I watched also on Netflix, they have a really cool docu-series about, the dynasties of Japan at the different periods and the wars that happened between it. And it is a really fascinating, just how much happened on such a small island when you think about the scale of things, that we're, one of the largest countries in the world, Canada, and then Japan is a fraction of our size, and there's so much more history there. It's a really cool watch. Again, can't remember the name of that one either, but it's a Netflix docu-series. It's really worth checking out.
Dope. Yeah, I think for myself, I'm not the most I'm familiar with samurai stories are the ones that are from Star Wars inspired by. I think back to like another amazing piece of animation with the Ronin in Star Wars Visions Season 1, and that's kind of my touchstone. So getting into this series was really, really fantastic, because I think there's a lot that can be learned from it, and it honestly has made me want to kind of check out some of the Kurosawa, classic films and Seven Samurai and things like that. So, man, very cool. Before we go any further though, I do want to just remind our lovely listeners that we here at Geekcentric support SAG-AFTRA as they strike to get the contract they deserve. Actors, just like writers, deserve a fair contract that reflect today's growing industry changes, and we're super stoked that the WGA has gotten the contract that they bargained for, and we really hope that SAG-AFTRA will reach an agreement with the studios as soon as possible. If you want to support the actors of the things that we love, you can do so by checking out the link in our description. With that said, let's get to the synopsis for this series, created by Amber Noizumi and Michael Green. who also serve as producers and writers. This provocative and visually stunning cinematic series immerses the viewer in a world of vivid adult animation with a live-action edge. Set in Edo period Japan, Blue Eye Samurai follows Mizu, a mixed-race master of the sword who lives a life in disguise seeking the deliverance of revenge. With a phenomenal voice cast, including Maya Erskine, George Takei, Masaoka, Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa, Brenda Song, Darren Barnett, Randall Park, and Kenneth Branagh, with a supporting cast including Stephanie Hsu, Ming-Na Wen, Harry Shum Jr., and Mark Dacascos. All 8 episodes of Blue Eye Samurai will be made available on Netflix Friday, November 3rd. And if you're listening to this on the day we've released it, you can actually watch the first episode on Netflix's YouTube page. They were nice enough to throw that up there today as of this recording. So definitely check out the first episode. Listen to this and then check out the first episode. Guys, we're going to kind of talk about a few of the aspects of the show as we kind of go along here. Feel free to talk about whatever you liked or sort of maybe didn't work for you. But I kind of want to start off by talking a little bit about the story, a little bit about the look and feel. This is a classic samurai story, but it's also a story of revenge, and there's so much heart, and there's so much pain in it, and there's so much that's put into every frame of this show. It tells the story, as I mentioned earlier, of Mizu, and she's such an interesting protagonist for this type of story because she's someone that, grows up as an outsider in 17th century Japan. She's not only a woman who, in that time, women have very little freedom, very little options, but she's also kind of, I think she's considered like a monster, as like a half-breed, having to hide herself from the people in her life, and it just follows this drive, this really painful story of her trying to find the men who could possibly be her father, and I just thought that was so interesting to sort of see a story like this that's not necessarily told by someone who is Japanese. They are as I said, a half-breed. I thought it was just fantastic.
Yeah, from what I was reading, it seems like a lot of the story concepts sort of came out of Amber and Michael's relationship because they're married.
Yes.
And they have a daughter that is of a mixed background. And Amber had a lot of different outlooks growing up. Is she Japanese? Is she American? Understanding her own identity. And so much of that is fused into this story. And I think that's sort of the modern approach, the modern touch, the touch that really kind of speaks to today's audience, even though the backdrop and the setting is historical Japan in 17th century. There's contemporary elements at play that really do pull you in as an audience member. And I think the show is absolutely fearless in pushing boundaries. The story of a mixed-raced swordsman who's actually a woman and pretending to be a man as to hide herself from those who might be interested in taking advantage of her or harming her. They go bold, man. It's unapologetically explicit when it comes to depicting the overly brutal nature of revenge, with bloody kills and that are not only visceral but are also integral to the larger story. The series isn't shy about exploring sexual identity in sensual moments using nudity, which really does highlight the adult nature of this show. This is not something your kids can watch or you should watch with your children.
No, definitely not.
But it's evident that when they use it in such scenes, it's so carefully crafted to serve the narrative rather than feeling overly gratuitous or just for shock value.
Yeah, it's not sex for sex's sake. It's not blood for blood's sake. Yeah,
it feels really organic to the story that they're telling. So I really did appreciate that. I think in some cases we've seen how sex and violence can often be just an exploit, and they just go bold with it for the sake of it. But no, this is carefully crafted.
I really love the story of the show. Again, you said it was a classic samurai story. I think it was more even Ronin, because samurai without a master, that is very much who Mizu is.
Right.
Just on this path of revenge, she is such a enthralling character. And then the supporting cast they introduce to it, or where they kind of reinvent this story of revenge, because he, as much as Mizu wants to do it alone, she is stuck with these people that constantly keep popping up or following her, and just the way they add to the story, and you get to see another lens of what they're going through or how they've been oppressed or something like that was really unique. And just even towards the end, the way that they incorporate an event that does happened in Japan's history,
Yep.
and they almost gave a reason to it in a new sense. I always love that idea of, an alternate history where it
Yeah.
could have happened, and this
They're
fits
touching
in that
history.
yeah, touching it so close and like
Yeah.
playing with it to tell a really engaging story. I think is they did it really well. And again, the fight choreography is so amazing. The dynamic camera movements through some of these fight scenes are just like it's you forget you're watching animation at a point because it feels so real and it feels like you're part of the scene and stuff like that. I love it.
Yeah, I think the kind of going off what you were mentioning with like all the different characters that are in Mizu's life throughout this story, it's like I love when a show has that level of maturity to give us character arcs from both sides so that you can have, protagonists kind of on both sides. There's not really a good or a bad character. There's kind of these, I mean, there's definitely bad characters in this show, but there's also very gray characters. And I love that, it's the same thing. It's like when Game of Thrones introduced me to the concept of a character that I could start off the show hating, and by the end of even one season, being so in love with. This show manages to do that with some just really rich storylines and rich characters, and I just it's fantastic.
And interconnectivity too. Like I
Yes.
just love that, like, we get to see aspects of people reconnect over periods of time, and how they connect is really, really interesting. Game of Thrones is definitely a perfect way to describe the vibe of this show in a lot of ways. It's samurai Game of Thrones, probably a little less political, but at the same time there might be a little bit there. But I think in terms of just how bold it goes, and how, as we were mentioning, the violence, the sex, and the those storylines affect the larger story and what they're trying to tell, and all the characters that surround our hero or our antagonist or our protagonist, however you want to look at Mizu, they influence her. They, in some ways, make her better. They change her perspective of how she's looking at life. And I think that's really great. Like, there's a satisfying growth to this character throughout these 8 episodes that feels very earned, and you can literally see it unfold episode to episode as we move through.
Yeah, Michael Green, who worked on this with his wife Amber Noizumi. He also worked on Logan and Blade Runner 2049, and you can definitely get the Logan vibes in terms of sort of that driving story. It is a movie or a show, feels like a movie, that's paced really well. And just going back to the fight choreography, Sunny Sun did a lot of the choreography for this, and it is incredibly fresh. And in a year where we've had some really phenomenal, like we just came off of our review for Invincible season 2, which also has some amazing, different stylized superhero fight choreography. And I said that was really phenomenal as well. It's just so cool that we're getting so much amazing, specifically fight choreography within animation this year. And her Mizu's attacks are relentless. Like, if there is a badass samurai moment that you are looking for, you'll probably find it in this show at some point. 100%.
Yeah, the live action inspired choreography is easily the best I've seen. And yeah, you're right. We did talk about Invincible, and we talked about how great the action choreography was there, but not with the sense of focus and attention to detail that you can see in every frame of the fight sequences.
Yeah.
And like you said, they brought in Sunny Sun to do the live action choreography previs that the animation was then built off of. And each of these fight scenes are a revelation. They feel smooth and dynamic as live action sequences, but they take full advantage of animation's limitless possibilities.
Yeah.
The way the cameras are placed and moved, the certain sort of kills, I don't think you would have executed those as well in live action, and can only be achieved in animation. And I think the result is choreography that pushes the boundaries of what's possible and really creating action sequences that are just visually stunning. There's some of the single best animated fight choreography I have ever seen in this show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
100%.
there's a fantastic featurette on Netflix's YouTube page that you can check out. I do recommend finishing the show, like finish all 8 episodes, or at least maybe get halfway before getting into it. There are a few spoilers, but I think just to that point, Justin, with the fact that the show is both sort of 2D and 3D, you kind of get this moving painting look at times that feels like it's like you're literally looking at a moving 17th century Japanese painting, and because they're able to blend with both 2D and 3D, in that featurette they talk about the fact that they're able to do different things that they wouldn't even be able to do if it was just traditional 2D animation. So for the fight choreography, the reason it's so fluid and moves so perfectly and the camera is able to spin around and move to the right spots is
It's based off of previs, right?
Right, and if they had so if there's like a rock or a tree that they would
take it
need
out.
to take out or move, they have the ability to do that. And I think that's such a phenomenal aspect to it, and it's such a cool benefit that you get in doing this with animation. Like the you get this sort of the 2D background, like vivid, colorful world, but then you also get the phenomenal 3D lighting and just some of the abilities that they have to again move that set around. It's just it's executed so well, and I'm so happy that they went with this. It reminded me a lot of another great animated Netflix show, Arcane,
Yes.
which felt very similar in sort of the style.
Yeah.
And it's just more, please. More Netflix, if you're listening, just find all these studios. Like this was Blue Spirit Studio who did this, and they did such a phenomenal, excellent job.
Yeah, the animation in this is nothing short of a visual masterpiece. I think in a lot of ways, the way they leverage, like you were saying, the 2D animation style to give hard outlines and define things while giving painterly brushstrokes to other elements and creating a sense of depth with contrast. It's all done thoughtfully and then also done with the inspiration of samurai movies. Like some of these moments feel like they're straight out of samurai movies, and the animation in this series demonstrates the incredible potential of the medium as a mechanism of storytelling. I think it showcases what can be achieved when you just step outside of the live action realm, and I think like you were saying, every frame feels like a work of art. It's lush. It feels like cinematic paintings that leave an everlasting impression. And I think the camera work is some of the best I've seen in animation, featuring long, sweeping, immersive shots that will take your breath away and leave a long-lasting image burned into your mind. It's some of the best animated work from this year, for sure.
Yeah, there's a shot specifically where Mizu it's in the trailer, but is fighting just another opponent, and there's just a crash of like a pink wave behind them, and it's just one of the most stunning moments. It's so cool. And to your point, Darcy, you had mentioned earlier, like the kind of the idea of sort of taking real world history and mixing it up a little bit to work within this story, but also just the fact that like they brought in a ton of different researchers and a ton of different professionals within the field of sort of understanding Edo period Japan, and there's such an authenticity in every cell of this show. And like the clothes are absolutely gorgeous, and then you bring in the details of the buildings and the architecture. And I think when a show can entertain me but also be so authentic that I'm learning things at the same time is honestly, it sounds really corny, but it's super exciting, and it's fun. And like even just things like, I say fun. It's fun to learn and expand your knowledge. A lot of the stuff they're covering is not a fun topic necessarily, but like even just learning like little things of like, I've seen Japanese paintings before with women with blackened teeth, and I never really understood why. And this series explores that. It talks about ohaguru and sort of that practice, and it shows you sort of where it comes from and why it has to happen. And I just think it's fascinating, and I really, really appreciate when a show can again entertain me but also teach me at the same time, and also get me interested to look at watch more Japanese cinema and maybe look into these stories and even real world history even more.
Yeah, just going off of what you were talking about, and Amber Nozumi and Michael Green as being the showrunners and creators of the show, but it does seem like Jing Woo, supervising director and producer, served a huge part in helping to visually materialize a lot of the elements in this show. And to your point, it really does come down to the materials that we see in the costumes, the authenticity of the way the buildings are. But what I loved is that she recorded herself walking in kimonos and different ways, running, sitting, so that the animators had something to feed off of in terms of inspiration to again hit home that accuracy, looking at foods and delicacies and what was consumed back in those days. It's all, again, it's all in respect of history. And to your point, I think what this show does so well is it honors that, it respects that, while also bringing in new elements to help enhance the story and make it that much more relatable, while also ingraining a new contemporary approach to the samurai story.
Yeah, and I also want to just mention Jane Wu. Apologies that I didn't actually. I don't know why I didn't have her up there at the beginning, but she's also a badass like martial artist.
Yeah,
like she
was teaching them with the samurai swords. Yeah,
so
how to stand and how to
cool.
do all the things. Yeah, and I think again, it's just another way live action can properly inform animation to then really show a true hybrid, right? Where it's not just, this is live action and this is animation. No, the two are influenced by each other. And I think that's what's so beautiful about the show is it is talking about heavy themes like division, exclusion, and the opportunity with diversity and being open. And in a lot of ways, this movie serves as a beautiful, harmonious representation of filmmaking styles from animation to live action. It's a beautiful subtext to this whole series. So
You can't tear your eyes away from the screen when it's playing. Like you want to keep watching more. And I found myself going back and rewatching scenes, like fight scenes, and then just like some of these ceremony scenes and how the detail they go into it, all the trimmings, and again the tea sets, the food, everything is so much detail packed into it that, like you said, it feels like you're learning something while experiencing this brand new story, which is really exciting.
Yeah, if Netflix and Blue Spirit, if you're listening to this, send us wallpapers. We want some wallpapers for our computers.
I think
they'll
be out there
canvas
available.
painting.
Yeah.
I want a woodblock painting. I want all of it. But moving to things that we maybe hear more than see, I want to talk about some of the performances in this show. Starting obviously with Maya Erskine, who plays Mizu, who is literally also born for this role. She's mixed race. She's Japanese American, and she does such a fantastic job. Like, again, we're coming off of our Invincible review, and I'm going to reference that again because the voice acting there is so phenomenal. And yet again, we get such a fantastic cast here. And with Maya, throughout the show, you can feel her anger, you can feel her pain in her line delivery. There's countless moments where, like, there's moments where for Mizu, things get so difficult, I have a hard time understanding how she's going to continue on. And it just shows her resilience, which is so inspiring. But at the same time, she's also scary, which I think is a really fantastic element. We've got a character who is, yes, the hero, but at a lot of times you can see how people would see her as the villain. And it reminded me a little bit of like Batman in that way, in the sense of like, enemies who see Batman at first, they're like, oh, it's just a guy in a bat suit. Like with her, they just see this skinny, man with a sword. But then as soon as she strikes at them and as soon as she starts like moving, they fear her so much, and they have every right to be fearful of her because she's incredible.
Yeah, I think, the way they've designed the character of Mizu is definitely to kind of incite fear. But I also get from Maya's voice performance, a sense of like, this is what I believe in, but she's not perfect. I just love that she was able to give us a range here where she can sound confident, she can sound scared, and she can also sound happy. And each of them sounds so different from one another that when she sounds happy, given how much she's like so serious,
it catches you off guard.
It catches you off guard, and it's like, whoa, like
hearing her laugh for the first time, it's like, what?
But it also just goes to help tell the story of the character. At one point, she did have a life where she could be this way, given where she is now, and this sort of anger-fueled revenge, serious, no friends, no happiness, just satisfaction, right? And I think that's clear in her voice performance that there's a hard contrast between those two personalities. And I think that that can be a hard thing to always convey in your voice, but she nails it.
She does a great job of bringing life to this character who at the beginning of the story believes herself to be the demon that everyone makes her out to be. But again, through the introduction of the rest of the cast or the interactions they have, we see her grow, and you can, throughout her performance, by the end of it, she is still angry and stuff like that, but there's a change to it. And she has that confidence of knowing what she's doing is more than just revenge now. She is doing the right thing type thing. And it's such a great job of bringing that character to life. So yeah, she did an amazing job.
And another character I want to shout out, speaking of maybe the more happy side of this cast, is Masaoka, who was just so lovely to hear in this show as Ringo. He's delightful. I think, I loved him in Heroes. That was the last time I've seen him in something. I'm sure he's done other work, but he's such a light in this show, which needs it. Like most of the time,
he's
like
the gentle touch.
He's the
gentle touch, and maybe even call him the gentle giant if you want, to a certain degree. But
it's like the Hodor.
Very much, yeah, he's very much exactly. He very much softens the seriousness of certain situations, and that's welcomed.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the thing that I love most about him though is like he does instantly accept Mizu, right? And he not only does he instantly accept her, he's inspired by her, right? Where everyone else that looks at her is disgusted, and I think that just goes such a long way to show you and tell you everything you need to know about Ringo the moment he meets Mizu. So good. So good.
Masaoka did a great job of again bringing this character to life, because he brings that levity you need in such a dark times, but he also is almost like conscious to this demon-like character that is Mizu. And so how resistant they are at first, and then their growth throughout the series is beautiful. So again, a lot of it comes down to the relationship between the two characters and how they play off each other, which is great. And if we're going to the complete opposite side of things, I kind of want to shout out Kenneth Branagh as Abijah Fowler is incredible. Like he is the ultimate villain. I feel like you want to hate this guy as soon as you meet him, just because of the way he carries himself and how cocky and confident he is. And it's so good. I kudos to him. I can't hate a guy more. I love it.
He's so scary. And I think the other thing too that I love is he is like the man behind the man. You know what I mean? Like he's one of the upper tier. And I think the other thing that I kind of like is they sort of almost do like a little bit of a Thanos thing, right? Where they don't really reveal him right away. So you kind of have to wait to see who this guy is. And when you do, I mean, again, shout out to the character design, because like freaky looking dude.
Well, yeah, he's just big and towering. And
long red hair
and
Ganondorf.
He seems like a giant of his own, and his personality is so regal yet unhinged, yet he seems like he's totally in control. I think Kenneth is seriously flexing some voice acting techniques here. And it really does stand out as being like he's having fun doing it. He's having fun playing this character and really leaning into the dark side. And you're not giving him right away. You work towards him. He's in the shadows. He's in the background. There's other obstacles. And as you start to unravel the bigger story, his motives and his intentions become very clear, and he becomes more and more unhinged. I think that's a great way to hook people in and get people to want to continue and be invested in this story. And honestly, like, it was easy after that first episode to just be like, okay, I'm in, right? Yeah. Especially for how much they gave you and how much they didn't give you. And we've talked about this in the past, where there's a fine balance between giving an audience a little bit of that mystery while keeping a little bit of it hidden away, that you can keep audiences invested.
And this show does.
And the show does, man. The show nails it.
I want to shout out another very recognizable voice of George Takei. Instantly recognizable when you hear him. He's sort of playing like this like supportive uncle type. It reminded me a lot of Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender in a lot of ways. And he gives like George Takei gives every character that he plays like such gravitas and like wisdom, and you can tell literally just by hearing him that Seki has lived just an incredible but also difficult life to get to where he's gotten, and so he's so protective over Princess Akemi, who's played by the fantastic Brenda Song. And even like for her, she's we talked about the aspect of like pain through performance. She absolutely delivers that in such phenomenal ways that at times are purposefully subtle because of the fact that she has to hide it in the sort of within the crowds that she's with. But she's such another fantastic sort of opposite to a character like Mizu, where they live such different lives, but they struggle with a lot of the same things.
I loved how they created that parallel between those two characters, and they showed the difference in lifestyle, but yet there's so much similar that they have to deal with in terms of representation and identity and what makes a man and a woman separate, right? It's really interesting. But talking about parallel characters, talking about the Sword's father, Kari Hiroyuki as the Sword's father is fantastic.
Yeah.
You talk about that sense of wisdom and that guidance. It's interesting how both characters have their mentor, their wisdom that helps guide them. I loved his portrayal as the Sword's father. I think he was very poignant with his performance. I love the sense of how some of these characters spoke in sort of poetic riddles that gave you insight. I know one that was really bad was in reference to a pig, and then and
a couple times there's a kind of a running joke.
There was a bit of a running joke, but or the idea of being, the idea of how being cold and rigid in relation to one's demeanor. Again, things that felt so inherently Japanese samurai, where there's a sense of analogy that's applied to understanding oneself. Beautiful.
And it's not overplayed either. Like
it's
there's they had the opportunity to accidentally sort of overdo a lot of that, but it's it's a really lovely balance with the dialogue.
But to your point, like both Seki and the Sword's father are those characters that provide that intellectual wisdom,
but on opposite sides,
on opposite ends, right? Like it's really, really great. So I love the way they were able to create parallels between these characters.
It's awesome how they're, again, this is going back to that Game of Thrones comment before, how they're introducing this wide cast of characters that you care about even if they are on the wrong side, because they're doing such a good job of again keeping that mystery hidden and unpeeling those layers and stuff like that. And I gotta say, it was, after seeing and falling in love with Randall Park all over for Agent Jimmy Woo, seeing him in this villain role was incredible. He got to flex his villain muscles, and it was great. I loved his character.
Man, Jimmy Woo in the MCU, Timmy in Blockbuster, Jim from The Office. Like, I've loved him in so many roles. He's so it's funny, if you actually look on the Wikipedia for this show, somebody edited Heiji Shindo, played by John Krasinski. But no, he's so conniving and scheming, and he's so creepy in this. But at the same time, like you were saying, Darcy, and like we're like we've been saying this whole time, like there's moments where you sort of understand what he's trying to accomplish, and he's not fully in the wrong at times.
No, exactly. Yeah.
And I think that's again one of the best aspects about this show, is that, like, I mean, I think the only character that I would personally say is fully in the wrong would be Abijah Fowler. But other than that, pretty much almost all the other characters they're so multidimensional, and it's just, I love it.
And I think that comes down to acting and not voice acting. I think the idea is understanding how your voice can be a conduit for sort of character development and acting a voice emotionally that can connect with the viewers. And I think that can be said about this entire voice cast, is that they 100%. All are acting so friggin' well. And really, at the end of the day, like we called out Randall Park, I really don't think he's doing anything to enhance his voice or change it and make it more of a characteristic, right? I think, Kenneth Branagh is, obviously, he's definitely leaning into a more Irish accent, but Randall Park is, like you said, playing an evil Randall Park character.
It was
right.
I will say it takes a bit of getting used to, but it does. It's great.
It does.
Yeah,
it works. The same goes with George Takei, right?
Yeah.
The same goes with Carrie. Brenda Song as well, too, bringing in so much of her own sense of angsty performance, right? Like, so she was able to really play Akemi so well in that, she was defiant and she wanted to break boundaries. And of course, Maya, like she knew how to bring in the emotion in there. So this entire cast, they brought their A game as actors for this show.
So good. And we don't get enough of her, but Ming-Na Wen is
I was going to say that.
Oh, but she's
gonna be my final
still
call.
good when you get her, man.
Yeah.
Like she's perfect.
Yeah.
She's perfect.
so good. So good.
Yeah.
Cast was incredible. There's not a bad one in it.
I also have to shout out the music in this show.
Yes.
I think the score and the needle drops. There's a couple of them. I think Amy Doherty, who's also Irish, but probably much nicer than Fowler, she gives such an incredible sort of theme work throughout the show, and there's for all the different characters, and I think like with Mizu, like when she's on screen, the music like replicates that sense of drive with every single moment. And like the production overall, there's such a sense of both authenticity, but also a blend of Western style strings, right? Modern, like that sort of modern style. And then that 17th century Japanese sound with like, koto or shamisen strings or bamboo flutes and woodblock percussion. Like it's all in there and it flows together perfectly. But then we get these needle drops that take us to like, and Darcy, I know you would appreciate that moment, right?
I'm waiting for it. I'm
going to hand it to you then. The metal moment. Let's go.
I mean, yeah, Netflix apparently loves Metallica because first we had Master of Puppets with Stranger Things, and now we're getting For Whom the Bell Tolls
So
in this
good.
incredible like sequence. Like I've rewatched that 4 times because it's just so good, and the rendition of it too in a Japanese cover of Metallica. Oh,
yeah. Shout out to Emmy Meyer, who did that track. But I think the one that I really gravitated towards for my likes of music was the Japanese rockabilly by a band called the Black Cats. Genie, Genie, Genie. I was asking Siri a lot, like, tell me what song this was in this show, and I think that moment in particular will stand out as probably one of the bloodiest in these 8 episodes. But cut to this rockabilly sound, it's such a wonderful contrast of a moment to have that song in there, and it's just the music. I've already downloaded the whole soundtrack.
Well, the one that felt very poignant and purposeful was the Kill Bill theme song.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I think this was their way of acknowledging Kill Bill as inspiration for this story. But beyond that, Quentin Tarantino seems to be like a inspiration, I think, not just narratively, also tonally. Like the whole idea of Tarantino's style, the level of modern meets historically authentic, or if you're Quentin Tarantino, kind of having a freedom. But I think they stayed more in the realm of being historically accurate while adding real deep modern touches. I feel like that's very Tarantino-esque to a certain degree. We've seen it with Django Unchained, right? Like, which I feel like when people watch this, they're going to say, oh, this has mad Kill Bill vibes. But this show feels like a Django Unchained show in a lot of ways, done from a samurai perspective versus a Western perspective. So there's a lot of parallels there. So I think that when they do that needle drop, it's very purposeful to say, thanks, Tarantino, because I think a lot of what they envisioned and what they were able to imagine for this story comes from his approach as a filmmaker. So I thought it was a nice touch. And in regards to like the popular music drops, there's not an abundant amount of them, but at the end of the day, when it hits, it matters.
It hits.
And yeah, the Japanese rockabilly style song was fire. It helped break up that episode from sequence to sequence, and it just was a nice contrast to the other 2 tracks that you got. And yeah, the music is just, it's another layer of that authenticity and that sort of that cultural touch that keeps this series so grounded and confident in what it's trying to achieve.
Yeah, there's a moment. I think the track is called something. It's like the 9th floor or approaching the 9th floor or something, but it's just before the From Whom the Bell Tolls, and there's just this like sort of like deep guttural sound that happens, and when you see the character on screen, it hits. It's so good. Great work with the music. All right, well, listen, I think we've all gushed quite a bit. Before we get to our final thoughts, is there anything that didn't work for you guys? Because I don't have anything, but I just want to double check. All right, I think we can see where this is going. So let's get to our final thoughts and rating for this show, which we'll be rating on a scale of 1 to 5 bloody blue blades. Darcy, I'll get you to kick us off. Or slice us off.
No slicing off. I want to keep all my digits and arms
keep
intact.
Your thumbs,
Thank you very much. Yeah. I mean, like I said, you kind of know where this is going. We gushed about how much we loved the animation, the cast, the story. Everything about this was done so well and came together for such a masterpiece in storytelling. Just the way that everything has a purpose and nothing seems out of place. There's no moments where I'm just like, oh, that shouldn't be there or anything like that. Early on, I may have felt like that, but by the end of the series, I went back and watched those first few episodes and loved them even more a second watch through, because the detail and everything there is so it's meant to be there for a reason. So yeah, this was an easy 5 out of 5 bloody blue blades from this guy. So yeah, all my thumbs are up.
There you go, and not chopped off.
Exactly.
Justin, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think a word that I like that you used there, Darcy, is purposeful. I think that after watching these 8 episodes, everything about this series is purposeful. This Blue-Eyed Samurai is a stunning revelation in the world of animated series. It seamlessly is blending historical accuracy with bold and modern sensibilities. And I think the show manages to captivate its audience by weaving a tale of revenge that is both timeless and incredibly relevant to the contemporary audiences of today. This show was an absolute surprise and delight, and an animated series that deserves a place among the best of this year.
Wow.
It marries historical accuracy with contemporary storytelling, combines explicit elements with purpose, and showcases animation at its finest. This is a show that is going to leave audiences eagerly anticipating more, proving that animation can be a powerful medium for storytelling and pushing the boundaries of what is achieved in the realm of televised entertainment. So yeah, this is an easy 5 out of 5 bloody blue blades. It's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah.
I didn't even mention the cast and the music, because we already talked about it, but it all just comes together. This is perfect. This is a perfect animated series, and it's definitely for adults. Do not watch this with children, but if you're an adult that likes
see what happens. Who knows?
I guess. Yeah.
Who knows? They got to learn.
We're gonna have a long conversation about a lot of things.
They got to learn. They got to learn. This was, just like you're saying, Justin, like such a wonderful, like unexpected surprise. I didn't know about this series. We didn't talk about this series until we were asked if we wanted to cover it, and literally until the trailer came out. And that's such a lovely.
I asked.
No, but I'm just saying, like, it's such a lovely thing to sort of get this trailer
Stumble upon, yeah.
and sort of stumble upon it. I guess, Justin, did you see this as part of like the animation package that Netflix did?
I saw a teaser for it, and
Right.
then when they pushed out the trailer,
Yeah.
and I knew that Netflix was on it, I immediately sent it to the group because I knew it would be of some sort of interest. And then inevitably I just, I reached out and asked if we could cover it. So,
well, I'm
as you
happy
said,
that
thank
you didn't tell us about it in advance, because again, getting the trailer and seeing this and then getting to cover this so quickly is just one of those things where it's like, normally we know about this stuff so far in advance. So it was lovely. I think it, like you're saying, Justin, like it just continues the messaging that animation isn't just for kids. It's not a genre. It's a storytelling vehicle that it allows for just different shots and different characters and stories that can only be done in animation. And I think the way the aesthetics service the story in so many ways to not only entertain, but also educate, allowing you to learn about this era and the customs of the Japanese people and the Edo period it's just nothing short of brilliant. I think the voice cast is stellar, and there's gorgeous and badass animated moments and fights and such a wicked soundtrack that all blend together to give a fresh take on a classic type of story. So I really, really, really enjoyed my time with the show. I can't recommend it enough. It's been such an incredible year for animation, where almost every studio that I can think of has contributed something outstanding. And this is yet another example of why animation should be looked at as so much more than where it started. I'm giving Blue-Eye Samurai a very solid 5 out of 5 bloody blue blades. That was my Wolverine. That was my Logan voice coming out for
something coming out.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But that is it for this spoiler-free review of Blue Eye Samurai. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts on this series or any of the shows or movies we cover, Justin, can you show the audience those beautiful blue eyes of yours and let them know how you can reach us?
Well, they can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or they can reach out to us on Twitter, or the app formerly known as Twitter, at GeekcentricYT, or on Instagram and Threads at wearegeekcentric. My eyes aren't blue, by the way.
I know. Listen, it worked, okay? I got blue eyes. It's fine. Keep in mind, we have a ton of other episodes covering the recent releases, like our spoiler-free reviews for Invincible Season 2, Part 1, David Fincher's The Killer, Goosebumps Episodes 1 to 5, Loki Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2, The Creator, and Expendables 4. We also have our Discord opened up where we'd love to talk to you about this show and many of the other shows we're covering on the podcast, or even shows we're not talking about. We'd love to hear from you. You can join using the link in our description. And we have a ton of interviews out now, like our most recent interview with some of the creative team behind Loki. Justin had the pleasure of chatting with episode 2 director Dan DeLeo, costume designer Christine Wada, and production designer and director of episode 3, Kazra Farahani, with all three of them shedding light on the collaborative journey of production from season 1 to season 2 and how they found their roles within that production. So be sure to check out those interviews and all of our interviews, either here on your podcast service of choice or over on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. Speaking of Loki, if you are enjoying the second season of Loki like we are, we have our Watch Club recap for episodes 1 to 4 out now with special guest Mike Smith from the Dumpster Talk podcast, where we got in deep with some pretty excellent, if I do say so myself, theories on what's going to happen next in the series. Darcy's smiling. I don't know if he agrees with how excellent the theories are. I don't know. Maybe.
I like them.
Yeah.
I like them.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
You might feel different if you've watched the new mid-season trailer.
Oh,
though.
I haven't watched the trailer. Don't watch the trailer.
Okay.
The episode's out as of today or tonight if you're listening to this when this podcast goes out, but or when this review goes out. I am staying away from that trailer. Can't wait to see it fresh. But listen, if you haven't already, please give us a 5-star review. We would love to become some Rotten Tomatoes, and so be sure to leave a 5-star review if you could, and be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all the great things we got coming at you as we enter the chilly geek winter. It is cold. It already started snowing, which is crazy.
It's warming back up again, though. It can't make up its mind out there. I work outside. I just want to be cold or be warm. Dang it.
Pick one. But Darcy, Justin, thank you so much for joining me for this blue and bloody review. And as we say, love ya.
Laters.
Peace.